Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kamek. My co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How are you?
Pretty good. Good weekend. We're recording on Sunday night. It's another nice August weekend. Did you do any fun summer activities this weekend?
Yeah. My family and I went up to Glenarford Lake, which is like a golf. I kind of describe it as like a bougie trailer park that's kind of built around a golf course. In central Alberta, and there's a lake. So it's really fun to go up there. My in-laws have a place. We try to visit them for at least one weekend a summer, and it's always a highlight. So yeah, it was great. How about you?
It was pretty good. Yesterday, hung out, did a couple things, met up with my parents. But today, the family, we went out and picked Saskatoons at a Saskatoon farm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Did you go to, that's south of Calgary, right?
No, this one's north of Calgary. It's over by Crossville. But
oh, okay. All right.
There are four of us. Guess how many pounds of Saskatoons we picked? And we had about an hour and 20 minutes we did it.
Oh, 40?
Oh, no, that'd be amazing. No.
Including the buckets? I don't know, 20?
Yeah, 17 pounds.
17? Okay, well, that's a lot of berries.
I'll send you a picture. It's a lot of Saskatoons.
Lots of jam coming at the Comet residence in the country.
I think so. We dropped off various family members, but yeah, there's more than enough left to make a bunch of things. So should be good. But yeah, what a quintessentially summer thing to do, I think.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we're here to talk about soccer, and this is our weekend recap episode. No games in Calgary this weekend, so that's why we were off doing other things for sure. But we will talk about the Calgary Wild. They played the Vancouver Rise on Saturday. We'll talk about Cavalry FC. They played Supra on Saturday. And we will have the final results of what happened in the APL. The final match is on Friday.
Yeah, and then you also did some kind of comparative analysis looking at how clubs fared in 2025 versus 2026 in the Alberta Premier League. And it was interesting to see that because some teams, did a lot better than they did last year and other teams did quite a bit worse.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that once we're in our APL segment. But let's start off with the Calgary Wild and their big victory, first NSL victory of the year.
Hey y'all, this is Jorian Bauckham, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Quite the late drama in the Calgary Wild's 3-2 win over the Vancouver Rise at Swangard Stadium. Jason, wish I watched this game in full. It was kind of hard to watch either of the two pro teams' games this weekend, just with me being away. But yeah, it looks like an exciting finish. Hey, 3-2 win for their first win of the season in the Northern Super League and with two late goals in stoppage time. So what an evening for the Calgary Wild. And coming off of their first victory of the season in the Canadian Women's Championship tournament against an amateur team from Quebec. But this one probably meant quite a bit more to the players.
I would think so. A real action-packed second half with, all the goals happening in the second half. But yeah, it's, I think everything turned out really quite well for the Wild. Their defense seems to be a bit short up there. There's still couple goals, but, I think they were making some good defensive plays and they were able to score. And more importantly, they were able to score when it mattered.
Yeah, in the 90th minute and 94th minute. Want to mention the Stewart sisters, Jason, the twins, had excellent games, both scoring in this one. Tegan Stewart got things going in the 47th minute with the penalty kick that was earned by Jorian Bauckham. And then not long after that, Vancouver equalized through Jessica DeFilippo. And then in the 65th minute, DeFilippo scored her second of the game. And it kind of felt like a here we go again moment. And to be honest, I didn't see the Wild rallying at that point, down 2-1 away from home. But Jorian Bauckham, who appeared to be having a spirited evening up front, she got on the score sheet in the 90th minute. At the time, we all thought this was to earn the Wild, pretty deserved draw. But then in the 94th minute, Keelan Stewart took advantage of a bit of sloppy defending from the Rise to put the dagger in the hearts of Vancouver's fans and win it for the Wild. Well, we've been waiting for Jorian Bauckham to kind of take the bull by the horns and be the experienced striker that we know she is. Really slow start to the season for her, but she does appear to be coming into her own in the last couple of games. So very happy to see a goal from her, and she drew the penalty that Tegan Stewart scored from. And I think this was that was Tegan Stewart's third goal of her pro career, but for her sister, I think it was Keelan's first professional goal. I think I read or say that in the post-game coverage.
I think that's right. I really have noticed in the last couple games, Tegan Stewart's really become a lot more integral part of this team. Like she's kind of taken over that Maggie Doherty Howard role with Maggie out right now with an injury. But not only that, like she's putting the ball in on set plays, like on corner kicks. And when it came to do the penalty, the Wild hasn't had many penalty attempts, but I think almost all of them have been taken by Maggie Doherty Howard. So I was a little bit surprised to see Tegan go up to the spot, but she made no mistake for sure. Good on her.
Yeah, showed no sign of nervousness at all. Really good game from her. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I wonder if that's a result of just Doherty Howard's absence or if it's the change in coach. Maybe Leah Blaney and now Corey Babington, have noticed something in her and have given her that bigger role.
Well, it stands to reason that new coaching staff are going to come in and they're going to rate some players higher than the previous coaches. And also they'll rate some players not as highly, right? So that's entirely plausible. I did want to mention one other thing in this match, which I think is kind of important, probably was a turning point, is in the 83rd minute, Vancouver got a straight red card and Kylie Johnson got pulled down on a clear goal scoring chance. And it was outside the penalty area and they didn't ultimately convert that into a goal. But I think what I wanted to sort of get at here is they did have the man advantage and they did utilize it, right? Like they scored both those goals like in the 90th and 94th minute. That's after that happened. So it's nice to see that when a situation like that came up, that they were able to sort of, grab hold of it and use that to their advantage.
So Jason, I guess the question now is where do the Wild go from here, right? They're now they have 2 wins on the bounce. They have a tough opponent this weekend at home, and we're going to talk more about that in our episode later in the week. But do you think that the Wild are probably feeling the most confident they've felt in the better part of a year?
I would think so. That's a pretty low bar. I think it's been really hard to have any confidence considering what's happened thus far in the year. So I think, they're probably flying as high as they have. And I think the only thing that I would really say is that, they can't get too far ahead of themselves. Like at this point, the playoffs are a crazy dream and probably not attainable. I think, you just have to go out every week and play the game that's in front of you and just do your best and take it from there, because you don't want to get too ahead of yourself and say, maybe we can figure out a way to get into the playoffs. I think you just got to go out and play it game by game and see what happens. And really for the players, like we talk about a new coaching regime coming in, they're playing for their jobs. I think that undoubtedly some of these players will not be back next year. And I'm quite sure that everybody on this team wants to remain a professional soccer player. So there's plenty of incentive, even from just a personal point of view, I think.
Yeah, well said. And good point about not getting ahead of themselves, because absolutely the Wild have 2 wins from 16 games this year. So yeah, definitely can't get ahead of themselves. Absolutely. But yeah, big game this Saturday at home. They're going to probably want to get their first win at their true home field, McMahon Stadium. But as mentioned, we'll probably talk about that more on Thursday night.
Sounds good.
This is Kanija Elva, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's turn our attention to Cavalry FC. They played in Laval on Saturday evening. They played Supra and 1-1 draw. There have been 3 close matches between these teams, but this is the first time Supra was able to grab a point.
Yeah, although I guess you could argue that it was Cavalry that were able to grab a point. They were the team that equalized, and once again, quite late, 88th minute, a Kanija Elva header from a Toby Warshevsky corner kick to cancel out a goal that Abubakar Sissoko had scored about 8 minutes before that. A really nice top corner finish from him. So the team split the spoils, but as mentioned last time we spoke, Jason, every time I watch Supra play, I'm really impressed by them, and I'm always surprised that they're not in the top 4. But then again, I guess they are an expansion team playing, and Cavalry and Forge and Vancouver are also playing really well this year. So maybe it makes sense. But another strong showing from, what's their head coach's name? Nick Ragazzi, I think. Ragazzi?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been impressed by, the way that his tactics and the performances he's getting out of his players. But this was one where I saw a bit more of this game than I did the Wild game. And And it honestly felt like Supra was the stronger team. They definitely were more on the front foot than Cavalry in the first half. I didn't see as much of the second, but as mentioned, that goal that they scored in the 80th minute was really nice from Sissoko.
I think that Supra had a pretty solid tactical plan to deal with Cavalry, and it seemed to work pretty well. Did you see the halftime stats for the match? Did you see what the XG was for Cavalry after the first half?
No, but it must have been 0.0 something because they didn't offer anything going forward.
0.01.
Yeah, like they were pegged back. It was Supra who had all the ball and all the chances. And, that was without a player I'd consider their best this season, Sean Rea. So even without their MVP, so to speak, they were really moving the ball around nicely and creating lots of chances.
That turf is really terrible. I didn't
Oh,
realize.
yeah, it looks awful.
It looks awful. And, people have been complaining about how bad it is. And I heard that it's going to be replaced prior to next season. But I think this was the game where I really appreciated how dreadful it was. I think it absolutely affected Cavalry. There were plays where I think they were expecting the ball to land, like it didn't land there, right? So, and I know Tommy Wheeldon Jr. Did make a comment in the post-match press conference about the turf is difficult to play on. It wasn't really, I wouldn't say he was making excuses or complaining. He just said it's difficult to play on. And I think it did kind of mess them up. I think like Super is probably familiar with it and the fact it's terrible and how it bounces and how it runs. But it definitely, I think, puts you at a bit of a disadvantage and certainly did Cavalry no favors. That's for sure.
So there's lots of talking points in this game, Jason. We wanted to mention Dan Klomp did not dress, their talismanic center back. According to Nigel Reed, who was commentating on the live feed, he mentioned that Klomp had a swollen knee, so was rested from this one. And we also saw that Bradley Campanthewa was back in the starting 11 after missing a couple of games. And I guess we found out why, and it wasn't an injury on his part.
Yeah, he's celebrating the birth of his son and had a couple weeks off as sort of a paternity break, I guess.
Yeah, so congratulations, Brad. Look forward to asking him about how the first few weeks have gone. And another thing worth mentioning, Jason, is, the day before this, Forge played Vancouver FC, who are in red hot form. And that continued with Vancouver beating Forge at Hamilton Stadium, which means that Forge dropped points this weekend. And in a way, this was kind of a missed opportunity by Cavalry to go top of the table, because if they had won this game against Supra, they would at least temporarily be in pole position in the Canadian Premier League.
That's true. They could have had first position, but if you want to look at it sort of with the glass half full attitude, they still gained a point on them, right? They still moved up 1 point. And really, that's going to lead everything to this upcoming weekend's match where, Forge is coming to Calgary and they're going to play Cavalry. And, if Cavalry is able to win that match, they'll go top of table.
Yeah, and it's perfect, isn't it? It always seems like the stars align when Cavalry and Forge play and the first place is up for grabs, and that seems to be the case yet again. So very excited for that game. Excited to see how Forge rebound after that loss to Vancouver FC. That was their first loss in Hamilton in coming up on 2 years. Hey.
Yeah, October 12th, 2024. I can hardly believe that, but that's a really long time.
And that must have been the game that Cavalry won at Hamilton Stadium with Toby Warshevsky scoring that amazing goal off the Marco Carducci assist.
I believe so. Yes, that is correct.
So anyway, as mentioned, Forge still top of the table with 35 points after 15 games. Cavalry on 34 points, although they have played one game more. So yeah, I know we'll chat more on Thursday night about Cavalry versus Forge this weekend. But yeah, what a great way to set that game up.
Absolutely.
Hey everyone, this is Francesco Bartolillo, and you are listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Okay, let's talk Alberta Premier League. There was one doubleheader on Friday that finished off the season, and in the men's division, it was pretty massive. BTB is playing Callies in this match. These matches were in Red Deer, and BTB needed to win this match in order to win the Alberta Premier League title. A draw or a loss would result in Blizzard winning the title. But BTB definitely took care of business on Friday evening in Red Deer.
Yeah, not exactly a shocking result considering this was, I believe, first against last. Calgary United coming into this one with just one win this year. BTB winning 7-0. You could tell that they showed up smelling blood. They knew they needed to win, and they got it done with an exclamation point at the end.
Yeah, definitely. 7-0. That's more than they would ever need. But I guess, really put their stamp on it to win the title. And yes, and on the women's side, BTB also defeated Calais 4-0. Although, as we mentioned, it's not. It doesn't really affect the in-net result, but that completes the 2026 Alberta Premier League season.
So as mentioned, Jason, you did some comparative analysis to see how teams fared this year compared to last year. What jumped out at you? I think the thing that jumped out to me was obviously the decline of Calais, well, especially on the men's side, going from 5th place in 2025 to 8th place this time around.
Calais for sure. And Villains, there was some improvement in their standings, particularly on the men's side, I guess. One thing I was surprised about this year, it was in the women's division, St. Albert. St. Albert was 3rd last year. They dropped down to 5th, and they were, I guess they weren't that far out of contention, but we always associate the St. Albert sides as being really strong. So, yeah, and I'd say the other thing is, Cavalry too. They had a pretty good season overall. They were 7th last year and 4th this year. So they kind of worked their way up.
Yeah, they had 18 points in 2025 and 22 points this time around, but 2 fewer games, right? So yeah, solid showing from Francesco Bartolilo's team. And yeah, obviously we know that the Wild U23, they probably made the most impressive jump of any team, but they did, I think, lean a bit more on their pro players this year than they did last year when they were just playing exhibition games against everybody.
The one other thing I think I would sort of comment about is you look at the standings, though, and who are the top 4, the top half in both the men's and women's divisions? Foothills, Blizzard, and BTB are in the top 4. Wild and Cavalry, too, are also in the top 4. So you look at Foothills, they were 2nd and 3rd. Blizzard were 2nd and 3rd. BTB was 1st and 4th. So those 3 clubs were consistent across both the men's and women's side for doing well this year.
And for the most part last year as well.
Yeah. When you look at it as well, that hasn't changed a lot. The only real change is that St. Albert kind of dropped into that sort of the bottom half of the table. But yes, thank you for joining us for another episode of the YYC Soccer Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so new episodes are waiting for you as soon as they're released. Visit yycsoccer.com for our complete archive and links to purchase Scott's book, Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. We'd love your feedback. Leave us a question on the website, connect with us on X, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is YYCSoccer403. If you have a moment, we'd really appreciate a review. It really helps other soccer fans discover the show. We'll be back soon with more stories from Calgary's soccer community. Until next time, keep supporting local soccer, and we'll see you at the match.